seem like we're kind of bouncing all around the place, but the idea is that all 5 of these different components tie in together in order for us to achieve our maximum potential well-being. So if you were to ask the shamans, wisdom keepers, and healers what the components of wellness are, you would hear them say 4 things, not just one thing, but they would say 4 things because wellness is a holistic approach. So they would say the mind, body, spirit, and emotions. So all 4 of these components play into our healthy lifestyles and our overall well-being. And how we can achieve having that balance between those 4 different stages of wellness is through this concept, space. So space we'll discuss today: sleep, presence, activity, creativity, and eating. And then the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So the reason why we throw this quote in here again is because if you think of those 5 components of space, or if you think of those 4 dimensions of wellness, if one is feeling off balance, it will have a trickle effect and affect those other aspects of wellness. So, for example, we'll kick this off with sleep, but you may notice if you don't get enough sleep one night, it could affect you emotionally, it could affect you physically, and even spiritually. I mean, it could affect all these different aspects of your health. So that's why we like this quote, is because you want to have that balance between all of those components. So like I said, to kick it off, we're going to talk about sleep and why it's important to our health. Get at least 8 hours of beauty sleep, 9 if you're ugly. That's what Betty White quoted once, so sleep is essential. So are you in sync with your natural rhythms? Does anybody, I know we have a small group here, but does anybody want to maybe talk about what they think natural rhythms means? What do we mean by that? No? So we are made to live on a 24-hour cycle. And so with that, naturally, we need to eat, we need to sleep, we need to move, whether it's actual exercise or just activity. We are made to do all of those things. And so this is what brings us to the circadian rhythms. So like I was just saying, these are the rhythms and how they sync with the rhythms of the planet. And if you are in good health, you will have these natural cues with these different cycles. So for example, an eating cycle. If you are in good health with kind of your eating patterns and nutrition and whatnot, and even the other aspects of wellness, each day you will have different hunger cues around the same time. So it's likely that many of you have your routine where you wake up, you either eat your breakfast or you're more of just a coffee person, but then you do get hungry around lunchtime the same time every day. So whether it's 11:30 or 1, whatever it may be, it's likely that you naturally just get that cue around the same time every day. Same with exercise. Exercise is kind of a harsh word. I mean, we don't all exercise naturally every single day. So I really want to change that word more to activity. So we need to move a little bit every day. If we sit for a really long period of time, our bodies may start to ache, and we know we kind of need to get up and move around for our brains and for our bodies. So naturally, we need to get up and do that. And then same with sleep cycles. How many of you on the weekend sometimes say, okay, I'm going to sleep in on Saturday, it's finally my day, but then naturally you just wake up at 7 or 8. Yeah, that's because your body is in sync and it naturally just wants to wake up when it's waking up. So that even though sometimes can be frustrating that you can't sleep in, it's actually a sign of good health. But the thing is that poor sleep health is really common, especially here in the United States. So 50 to 70 million Americans have a sleep-related disorder. A third of Americans have chronic insomnia. And these next 2 bullets I think are really interesting. So 50% of all insomnia is stress-related. And sleep insomnia is a learned behavior. So if you think about it, if you some nights may have, say on Tuesday night, or I guess today's Tuesday, So say last Tuesday you had a really bad night's sleep. Then come Wednesday, you kind of think about it all day and you're like, oh, I'm so tired, I can't wait to get home, I can't wait to get to bed. And then as it gets closer and closer to bedtime, you may convince yourself, okay, I'm going to bed at 9, I'm going to fall asleep, and I'm going to catch up on my sleep. It's almost like you're working yourself up and you're stressing yourself out to get all this sleep, but then you're going to go to bed and your mind is going to be wandering a million miles an hour thinking, I need to get to sleep, I need to get to sleep, and therefore you don't sleep. And so that kind of pattern and cycle will result in insomnia. Does that happen to anybody here? Where they stress out if they don't sleep and work themselves up? And then some nights you'll play insomnia Jeopardy. So you lay in bed at night thinking ways in which people have wronged me, strange noises, diseases I probably have, money troubles, why did I say or do that, ideas for screenplay. So I mean, you can see here that your mind may wander in a million different directions, and it's because you're not able to sleep at night. So a good way around that, I recommend journaling, whether it's before bed or even if you wake up at 3 a.m. and you're not able to get back to sleep. Rather than turning on your TV or turning on a podcast or something, if you could just wake up and write down everything that's on your mind, you may see that this list in front of you isn't as overwhelming as it feels in your mind. And also it's important to get a good night's sleep because poor sleep wellness is associated to these different conditions. So you can see here there's physical conditions like heart disease and cancer, but then also emotionally it can affect you with depression and eventually Alzheimer's. And so how can we get a better night's sleep? A lot of people may think sometimes a sleep aid like NyQuil, ZzzQuil, Advil PM, whatever it is, and that's fine for some people, but really we encourage taking more of a holistic approach because sleep aids are actually one of the top selling pharmaceutical drugs. And this particular drug, Rosarum, a few Super Bowls ago, there was a Super Bowl commercial for this Rosarum, and it had Abraham Lincoln, a beaver, I think like the Easter Bunny or something, and this guy was in his dreams, and they're like, hey, your dreams miss you. It was just kind of a funny little Super Bowl ad. And that next day, the charts went up for this drug. So this one commercial affected so many Americans that they were like, oh, I have poor sleep wellness. I can just go to my doctor and get this drug and I'll be cured and fine. I mean, the charts were significant after seeing this commercial. And really, again, sleep aids and pharmaceuticals are not the answer for everybody. So a holistic approach that you can try before doing those pharmaceuticals would be something like acupuncture, meditation, or of course, physical activity and exercise. And has anybody ever tried acupuncture before, by chance? No? I actually did it yesterday for the first time, and I'm not lying. Last night was the best night, and I'm pregnant, and last night was the best night's sleep I've had in months, even before I was pregnant. So that wasn't even why I went and had acupuncture, but I did notice today that I had a really good night's sleep. So something that you could look into. And also just before bed, engage your 5 senses. So with your sight, notice if there's too much light in the room or even if it's too dark. Is it too dark that you're not even going to be able to wake up in the morning? With your touch, notice if you're feeling comfortable, if your sheets are scratchy, or your pajamas may not be the most comfortable. That could affect you not getting a good night's sleep. The sound, limit your noise. So if you live in a really loud area, then maybe get some earplugs, or if you do need a little bit of sound and not complete silence, think of getting some sort of sound machine. The smell, I know this one is kind of funky, but are your sheets clean? Do you need something like lavender oil to help you relax at night? And this taste one is even funkier, but think about it. Did you brush your teeth? Do you have a dinner taste still left in your mouth? Do you have garlic flavor in your mouth that's kind of distracting you? Whatever it may be, these 5 different senses could essentially play a role in why you're not sleeping. So moving on to the next portion, which is presence. The present moment is filled with joy and happiness. If you are attentive, you will see it. So does anybody want to share what the word presence means to them? No? I know we have a small, quiet group here, which is fine. So here are just a few different words that could relate to present. So being mindful, still, focused, even confident. And the reason why we really like to focus on presence too is because if you aren't able to achieve presence or a mental well-being, it will be hard for you to achieve those other components of space, those sleep, activity, creativity, and eating. So mental well-being and presence really is almost like a core component to your overall health and well-being. And another reason why it's important, especially in this day and age, is because our minds all day are distracted and thrown bits of information from the moment we wake up to the moment we fall asleep. So whether or not you wake up and grab your phone and look at social media, or you wake up and read the newspaper or watch the news, whatever it is, our brains are stimulated the second we wake up. And the truth is, our brains do have limits. And so sometimes in the afternoon, you may notice that you hit kind of like a brain fog, or you have a headache because you've just been reviewing so much information in one part of your job or whatnot. And so it's important to find that balance between that brain stimulation and what we like to call that mental tranquility. So that's how we can find that balance, is through being present and noticing mindfulness or practicing mindfulness. And also, our brains are really incredible, but the truth is research has shown that they really aren't that great at multitasking. So believe it or not, yeah, we aren't that good at multitasking. And the way I like to look at it is that multitasking is more of a quality, not quantity, or not multitasking itself, but you want to view your tasks as a quality, not quantity. So you could be trying to do 5 different things at once, but ultimately, what's that going to get you? It may result in poor work, mistakes, time inefficiency, whatever it may be. It's just not the most effective way if we're wanting to have the best quality of work. Also, if you think about it, I mean, texting and driving is a perfect example of multitasking. And just kind of a crazy little stat, some transportation organization, I can't remember off the top of my head, said texting and driving is equivalent to driving 3 times over the legal alcohol limit. So that would be a 0.24 blood alcohol content while driving. So can you imagine knowing if someone was drunk and they were driving at a 0.24 level on the road? Well, the reality is there are hundreds of people texting and driving on the road right now, and they just aren't even doing anything about it right now. So kind of just a fun stat to think of when next time you consider texting and driving. And of course, it's difficult to be present when we are multitasking. It's hard to focus on just that one task. So how do we become more mindful and more present? These are just some 12 different tips. So turn daily tasks into mindful moments. Create, pay attention to your breathing. Of course, like I've been mentioning, unitask instead of multitask. Have a healthy relationship with technology. So if you, for work, are able to have different breaks throughout the day, rather than taking a break and getting on social media, maybe take a break to walk outside or walk around the building, because outside is not the healthiest right now. So at least walk around the building and clear your mind, and don't just turn to technology. Seek new experiences, go for a walk, get in touch with nature, understand and feel your emotions. Meditate, of course, allow the mind to wander, and stop worrying about the future. So who has heard of the term squirrel? Yep, I'm sure most of you have. So it really is that expression that describes the mind running all over the place. And if you kind of go back to that insomnia, Jeopardy, all those different topics, your mind can probably touch on all those within a matter of 2 minutes. And so meditation can really eliminate your squirrel moments.
My name is Doug. I have just met you, and I love you. My master made me this collar. He is a good and smart master, and he made me this collar so that I may talk. Squirrel!
So for those of you who didn't get the term squirrel, that's where it comes from. So here are some benefits of regular meditation. So you have increased concentration, increased creativity, increased quality of sleep. So if you were one that's struggling sleeping at night, meditation is a great way. Decreased muscle tension, and of course there's physical factors that you can affect as well, such as heart rate and blood pressure. And what I want to mention with meditation is that meditation sometimes could have a negative stigma to it. Just so you know, meditation, in order for you to meditate, you don't just need to be in a dark room by yourself with some crazy music in the background that you don't really listen to regularly, and you need to get your Om going, okay? It really can be when you're just sitting at your desk. It could be when you're walking outside. It could be even if you're shopping at the mall. I mean, it really is just a matter of being able to focus your thoughts and focus your thoughts on that present moment. So we're going to do a guided imagery, which is also a form of meditation. So if you don't mind just closing your eyes and getting relaxed in your chair for a minute, and look at this beautiful snow. Too bad we don't have it here right now. But again, I just ask you to go ahead. If you want to keep your eyes open, that's fine too, but just sit comfortably in your seat. But again, this is a guided imagery, so it may be easier for you to close your eyes so you can actually envision it. So picture this. You're sitting by a large picture window in a warm log cabin on a brisk winter's day. You have the entire place to yourself, and the solitude feels invigorating. There is a log fire in the wood stove radiating abundant heat. Both the sounds of crackling wood and the scent of pine arouse your senses, and for a moment you close your eyes and take a slow, deep breath, a sigh that refreshes. As you exhale, you feel a wonderful sense of relaxation permeate your entire body from head to toe, and it feels great. Consciously, you take another slow, deep breath in through your nose, and as you exhale through your mouth, you become aware of this glorious stillness that surrounds you. From where you're seated, look out the window, and as you do, you see falling snow. Snow that falls gently to the ground in large flakes. Everything outside is covered in white, fluffy snow. The ground, the pine trees, the aspens, in fact, all the trees for as long as you see are covered in snow. As you look closely at the snowflakes descending from on high toward the ground, you sense a calmness both indoors and outdoors. Other than snow falling, everything is still. Everything is quiet, and the stillness you observe is a reflection of tranquility you feel within yourself. This stillness is so inviting that you slowly move off the couch and stand up. As you walk toward the cabin door, you put on your warm winter coat, hat, and gloves. Then slowly, you open the door and simply stand in the doorframe to observe the endless dance of millions of snowflakes floating gently, almost in slow motion, from the sky down to the snow-covered ground. Listen closely. What do you hear? The sound of snowflakes is so soft, so gentle, the sounds are barely audible. If you listen very carefully, you will hear the barely audible sounds of falling snow. Your ability to focus on this sound, to the exclusion of all other thoughts, sets your mind at ease, like a broom that gently sweeps the floor of any remnants needed to be cleaned. The snow-covered ground is a symbol of your mind clean, clear, and still. Take a slow, deep breath of this clean, fresh air and feel a deeper sense of calmness all throughout your entire body. As you step back inside and close the door, you kick off your shoes, take off your jacket, hat, and gloves, and return to the couch by the picture window. As you close your eyes to focus on the sounds of stillness, take one final slow, deep breath and bring that stillness into the center of your heart space. Now, slowly allow this image to fade from your mind's eye, but remain the sense of tranquility it inspired. Make yourself aware of your surroundings, the room, the building, the time of the day, and perhaps what you will be doing after this presentation. Although you feel relaxed, you don't feel tired. You feel rested and rejuvenated. Begin to make yourself aware of your body. Stretch your arms and shoulders, wiggle your toes, move your head and neck, and when you feel ready, open your eyes to a soft gaze in front, and as you retain this sense of calm and comfort all throughout your mind, body, and spirit, remember to keep it in mind all day long. So I don't know if many of you have done an activity like that, but hopefully right now you're feeling a little more relaxed, and that was just a fun, quick 2 minutes for you to quiet your mind and just kind of go to a different place and relax. So that right there is basically a form of meditation. So again, just kind of keep your mind open. Also with meditation, there are different apps on your phone that you can get that can walk you through it. And so again, any time of the day you can listen to these guided imageries or even YouTube it and just take a few moments to relax. So this next portion is focused on activity. And since this is more of a holistic approach to this presentation, when I talk about activity, I don't want to use the phrase exercise. So sometimes exercise for some individuals may be negative. So if you, for example, aren't one to exercise, you may think, okay, I really don't want to exercise, that sounds hard, and it's just negative, it's not fun. So something more positive like activity, or what we're going to go into like purpose-driven fitness, could change your thought about activity or movement. So this concept of purpose-driven fitness focuses on 3 different components. The first is the psychology. So this right here is the motivation. So why are you wanting to be active? Why do you want to go do these physically active things? Find the motivation behind it. The physiology, so the move. It's important for you to find an activity that you enjoy. So I myself, I am not a runner. I hate running, and so that would not be my form of activity. I just don't find the fun in it. Something that's more suitable for me is something like yoga or even jazzercise that I have more fun with. So it's important for you to find a movement that works for you and not just what you think is needed to be done because that's what everybody else is doing. And the philosophy, which is the mantra. So the motivation is really the why, the move is the what, and the mantra is how you're going to get there and do it. So with your motivation, it's important to have your motivation because there are a lot of positive benefits with it. So it will boost your mental health, it can lift your mood, lower certain health risks, of course, supports your immune system, strengthens your heart, eases joint pains, and most importantly, it can improve your quality of life. Does anybody want to share what their motivation would be for being physically active? So a lot of the times the motivation could be your kids or your grandkids. You want to make sure that you're healthy and well for them eventually at some point. Or the motivation really could be because physically you want to feel better or even look better. That's really the motivation behind it. So what I really encourage you to do, though, is find a motivation that has a deeper meaning than just a physical appearance, because that way you're able to tie it emotionally and it could essentially be a little more successful. And so what does the research recommend for movement? Research encourages that you move 30 minutes a day. So this could be anywhere from 30 minutes of brisk walking to running or yoga or jazzercise or anything like that. What's important to know, though, is that this 30 minutes, use a guideline as if you were to walk 30 minutes a day. So if you were to do something a little more vigorous, you don't have to do it for 30 minutes a day. It could be a shorter time period. So if you go running, it could actually be more like 15 or 20 minutes. Or if you're doing yoga, that's more of a constant flow. Maybe that would be a little bit longer than just your 30 minutes. So I encourage you to get 30 minutes of movement each day. And so like I was just saying, all different types of activity count. It's not just going to be something like cardio that you'll be doing at the gym. But most importantly, circle back to your motivation as a guide. So if your motivation for movement and being physically active is your kids, then find something to do with your kids that encourages this movement. So grab your kids, go to the park and play with them, or go for a walk, or do something that they enjoy that you could do as a family, and that way you'll be more likely to do it. And again, that's just an example. And then your mantra. So this is going to be the phrase that keeps you going. So some of these phrases are a little cheesy. I mean, it doesn't have to be an actual phrase, but maybe it could just be one keyword that reminds you why you're doing this. So in days that it gets difficult, or days that you really don't want to move or do anything and you just kind of want to be a couch potato, just think of your mantra and also, of course, your motivation. So some mantras could be, no matter how slow you go, you're still laughing everybody on the couch. This too shall pass. Sweat like a pig to look like a fox. Run when you can, walk when you have to, crawl when you must, just never give up. And remember to keep the mind-body connection. The body achieves what the mind believes. So that second to last one, the run when you can, walk when you have to, crawl when you must, just never give up. I have a coworker, she's our director, and she is an avid runner. I mean, she did I think it was the Bear 100, that's what it's called up in Bear Lake. It's a 100-mile race. And she did a phenomenal job. She's never done this 100-miler before, and she ended up placing third overall. And she was even just like a minute behind the second place or so. And she says that that's her mantra. This run when you can, walk when you have to, crawl when you must. Because as she's running and as she's wanting to give up, I mean, I'm sure after a couple miles for a 100-miler, you want to give up eventually. But she just remembers, okay, I can walk right now. Or she'll think, okay, I want to just give up. And really, do I need to be crawling right now? No, probably not. I could probably walk instead. And then if she started walking, she'd convince herself, okay, do I really need to be walking right now? No, probably not. I really could actually run. And so that really truly is her mantra when it comes to running. And because of this little mantra, it helps her get through something like a 100-mile race. So it doesn't have to be that extreme. I mean, even if it's just a 5K or something, that's just a fun little one to keep in mind. And this next portion is focused on creativity. So many ideas grow better when transplanted into another mind than in the one where they spring up. So creativity is not just about pen or pencil to paper. It is a thought process, a way of life. It is looking at the task in hand without a manual of how to complete it. It's looking at your project without the expectation that you will finish it in the exact same way that you did so the last time. It's finding new ways to see the mundane, new ways to develop, and new ways to connect. So creativity is, I think, especially important in the workplace, because if you work with a team, you all may do things a little different. You may all have one similar goal, but you may do different things to actually achieve that goal. So the good thing with creativity is that it allows you to keep an open mind with how things can actually be done, and it can actually unify a team if you look at it that way. So that's kind of the focus on this section, is being able to just keep an open mind and figure out how to work with people in order to enhance creativity. So places like Google, they have this 20% time program. So for all employees employed at Google, they are able to allocate 20% of their week towards this creativity time. And so what this allows is that all the employees are able to go and do whatever project they want. It doesn't have to be related to their work responsibilities whatsoever. So they can just go and they can brainstorm and they can just basically play around with all these different thoughts in their mind. Because of this program, things like Google Maps have come to surface, even Gmail, and all these other additions that Google has that isn't just Google. So that's because of their 20% time program. They allow their employees to just have this autonomy and freedom to be creative and do whatever they want, and it's a safe space. So I know that's likely not able to happen in your job, but again, it kind of ties back to what I was saying about having an open mind. Allow your coworkers, especially if you're in a management type position, allow your colleagues to come to you with different ideas and be open-minded, because there may be a better way or more efficient way to achieve your goal. And then IBM did this study all across the world, and they analyzed 1,600 CEOs from all these massive companies. It wasn't just like a group of 50 employees. They were thousands and thousands of employees that these CEOs, or of the CEOs that they reviewed. And they asked them different competencies that that CEO would look for if they were to hire another CEO. And so sometimes we may think of a CEO to be really strict and follow the rules and just be really professional and whatnot, but the number one competency that they looked for was creativity. And I mean, if you think about it, if you're a CEO, you need to have that open mind and creativity in order to drive your company to the next step, or for the company to grow and progress. So we just thought that was an interesting study to throw in there, because even somebody like a CEO who's super professional and really high up there, they strive off of creativity. So it's an important component to have, especially within the workplace. And so kind of going back to the whole workplace discussion, there are certain things that we may do with our team or our colleagues that may block creativity. So rather than having blocked lines of communication, make sure that your team has an open and honest line of communication. So rather than having an ineffective leadership, which could be micromanagement or inaccessible leaders, make sure that you have an open door, and then allowing the employees to have autonomy. Offer trust, fear of blame storming. So what this term means, I'll give an example. So if you were in a meeting with your team and say Jody over there in the corner said, hey, I actually think it would be a better idea and more efficient for us to have a walking meeting outside. I think it would allow us to have fresh air, and I think we may come with more ideas, and all these different benefits is what she lists. And then Todd over there in the corner may say, Jody, that is a really dumb idea. I don't want to do that, and I don't think it would work for our team. That right there would make Jody kind of shut down, and she's likely to not share her ideas anymore because she may feel embarrassed, or she may not feel like she fits in. And so that's what we mean by blame storming. So again, going back to that, having an open mind with your team is crucial, and just keep a non-judgmental, safe place for your employees and your team. And yeah, so those are just some ways that you can be more effective. And then benefits of play. So I'm not sure if any of you were here for the presentation I gave on mental health a while ago, but we tried playing this rock, paper, scissors game. And the idea really was to just get everybody out of their seats and play this little game and kind of relate to each other on a different level that you don't normally relate to in a work setting. So we like this idea of being able to play or have fun because it requires you to relate to your colleagues on another level. So we really do all have lives outside of work, and that's the goal of enhancing your creativity and play, is so you can relate on a different level. So it also establishes an environment of activity, fun, teamwork, leadership, self-awareness, and many more. And so what I mean by playing is that you don't actually have to play a game, but maybe if you have a meeting with your coworkers, start the meeting off by watching a funny YouTube video or someone kicking it off with a joke or something like that, where it can actually lighten the mood a little bit and get everybody just on kind of a happier level, and you can all kind of laugh together and just have more of a connectedness. And so that's really what I mean by play. It doesn't have to be a physical game like the rock, paper, scissors we tried that one time. And the rock, paper, scissors we tried, I say tried because it really failed. It didn't really work. We had a really small group like this, and but yeah, there's different ways to just have fun with your team and keep everybody going. And so this last portion that we're going to touch on, and yeah, sorry, this is a little bit of a shorter presentation. We're not going to be going the full hour, but if you guys have any questions after, we can definitely address those. But this last portion is eating. So similar to the activity portion, we really want to reframe your mindset around eating. Because similar to exercise, words like diet and nutrition may be a little intimidating to some, and especially if you yourself think that, oh, I want to eat healthier or something, find a reason behind it other than just losing weight or looking better or something. Think of it more as a holistic approach because it's essential for our overall well-being. The life in food gives us life. I think that's a cute little quote. So how can we approach food and eating in a positive light? So a lot of people, I'm sure I could bet all of you maybe, have once said, I'm going to lose weight. So rather than saying losing weight, I'm going to lose weight, reframe it to say I'm going to restore my health. So you can see the difference in those two phrases, how one is a little more negative and one is a lot more positive. And that way your mindset around it could just be a fun, positive light and looking at it. Rather than saying, I'm going to cut added sugar, frame it as I'm looking to regain my energy. And I'm going to reduce my processed foods. Rather than saying that, just say, I'm going to increase the intake of food that nourishes. So you can see that there's quite a difference between those. Ultimately, the things on the left are probably what your goal is. But again, just having a more positive mindset about it will be more realistic for you to actually achieve those goals. And it could also help your family and friends help you achieve those goals as well. Because if your family and friends just constantly hear from you that you're just losing weight, it could essentially have a negative effect on them. And so if you have it in a more positive light, it may be more successful for everybody else to help you achieve those goals. So when eating, think about these things. So the why. Why are you doing this? The how, and also the what. So really, with the why, we want you to connect with the meaning. So going back, I think a lot of this portion goes back to the presence component and mindfulness and actually being aware of what you're eating and also why you're doing it and how you're doing it and things like that. That's what we mean by this portion. The how, so savoring the experience of the eating. And the what, so nourishing ourselves through food. So the why, as an individual, focus on what your weightless why is. So why are you eating this food? Rather than saying, oh, I'm eating this to lose weight, you want to focus on another reason. So, oh, I'm eating this to regain my energy. You want to think of a more positive way of why you are eating the way that you are. Does that make sense? Like, why are you adopting these healthy lifestyles? I do have this little flyer up here that you're more than welcome to take. It's just finding your weightless why, and you can list different reasons why, what your weight, or you can list different reasons of what your weightless why is. So it could kind of go back to your kids. So your kids could be your weightless why. That's why you're eating healthier, is because you want to be healthier ultimately. But the goal of this is really to determine why you're eating this beyond the scale. So these are just some examples. So I'm eating this way because I want to sleep better, or increase my mental stamina, reduce my fatigue, build confidence. So these are just more positive ways than just losing weight. And reframing the how. So make eating an enjoyable experience. So I don't know if many of you have seen this commercial, but I think it's like an Xfinity commercial or something, but the family all gets together at the table and all of them are sitting there texting, and the mom is able to just switch everything off. Think of that as kind of your goal for your eating experience. So rather than everybody just sitting there being on their phone, not really talking to anybody anymore, have a no phone rule at the dinner table and just enjoy each other's company. And that way you're also able to observe more of what you're actually eating. Not only just technology, but you can make eating an enjoyable experience. So similar to texting, you may eat on the couch for dinner sometimes in front of a TV, but if that's really your habit, then make it a little bit nicer and go and actually enjoy a meal on your kitchen table. Even setting the table could change that kind of ambient feeling and make it feel a little fancier and nicer, and you may have more of that restaurant feel, and it could be a little bit more of an enjoyable experience rather than just, eating some mac and cheese on the couch or something. It could be fancy mac and cheese on the dinner table. And even something just like lighting a candle could increase that positive, more light ambiance, I guess you could say. And also with this, going back to kind of a work setting, if I'm sure many of you only have so many minutes to throw in lunch, so sometimes that could result in running to just McDonald's down the road or fast food, or even if you brought a lunch from home, just hurrying and trying to stuff it down while you have these few minutes. So try to make it more of an enjoyable experience. So if you do have a few minutes and you do have to go to McDonald's or something, rather than just eating it in your car, try to take a step to eat it outside or something and change that setting. Don't just make it that convenient and something that's just like a check the box on your to-do list today. Because going back to that very first portion, we do naturally have these eating cycles and these hunger cues, and so we want to be able to acknowledge those and not just quickly pass through them, if that makes sense. And then reframing the what. So this is just to wrap it up. Just keep in mind, eat food, not too much, mostly plants. It's really true, you are what you eat, basically. So it's okay to have cookies and all the yummy, unhealthy stuff every now and then, but the goal is to just remember moderation is key. And if you are having a diet that's mainly real food, so meaning that you're buying fresh fruits and veggies or meats that you have to cook on the stove rather than just heating up in the microwave in a TV dinner, those are all better options and ultimately will make you feel better and give you a little bit more life. So just a little rule of thumb. And so to wrap it up, you can see, and there's this little acronym, JERF, just eat real food. Our dietitian loves that. So just to wrap it up, you can see that sleep, presence, activity, creativity, and eating may all have an effect on each other. If you're not eating that well, there's a likelihood that you may not be sleeping super well. If you're not sleeping well, then it could enhance or could affect your creativity, for example, or result in you not wanting to do your activity. it's a total trickle effect, and that's why it's important for you to be able to find a balance between all of these in order for us to achieve our full potential of a healthy lifestyle and well-being. So that's all for today. I do have some flyers up here that just, I have a flyer on sleep, presence, activity, creativity, and eating. So if one particular portion was a little more exciting for you, I do have a flyer on just that. And then again, like I mentioned, I have that Weightless Why flyer up here if you want to hang in your office or something to just remember why you want to achieve a healthy lifestyle. So let me know if you have any questions. I'll be here after, and I appreciate you all coming today. Thank you.